Adnan stared at the gleaming metal arena in disbelief, his heart pounding against his ribs like a caged bird. The massive crystalline dome overhead refracted the light of 3 alien suns, casting rainbow patterns across the assembled crowd of beings that defied every law of biology he'd ever learned. Some had tentacles where faces should be, others floated in containment fields that sparkled with bioelectric energy, and a few looked almost human, if humans had scales that shifted color with their emotions. "This has to be a nightmare," he muttered in Urdu, hoping nobody would understand. The universal translator embedded in his ear caught his words anyway, broadcasting them to the arena in perfect galactic standard. "The human expresses doubt in the ancient tongue of his homeworld," boomed the announcer, a towering being with 6 arms and what appeared to be a constellation of stars where its head should be.
Such confidence.
Such tactical misdirection. Adnan wanted to laugh or cry. He'd only learned about the existence of aliens 3 hours ago, when their ship had rescued him and Nihal from their disabled research vessel near Jupiter. Now here he was, apparently signed up for some kind of gladiatorial combat because of a translation error that nobody seemed willing to correct. He glanced toward the royal viewing box where Nihal sat with the 3 alien princesses who had somehow decided that witnessing his imminent death would be an excellent way to evaluate potential marriage partners. Nihal caught his eye and gave him an encouraging thumbs up, though her expression suggested she was about as confident in his survival as he was. Princess Zixandra of the Nexus Collective leaned forward, her crystalline skin refracting light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Observe how the human conceals his battle strategy. Such deception is worthy of a tactical partner. "Nonsense," hissed Princess Velthari, her serpentine body coiling around her floating throne. "He shows appropriate reverence for the sacred arena. This speaks to spiritual depth." The third princess, Quinn Mora, whose features seemed to shift between dimensions, simply smiled with teeth that existed in more spatial planes than should have been mathematically possible. "You both misunderstand. The human demonstrates the greatest warrior virtue of all, the ability to face the unknown without losing one's essential nature." Adnan heard none of this. He was too busy trying not to trip over his own feet as a gate opened across the arena, and his opponent emerged. The creature that entered made Adnan's knees nearly buckle. It stood 12 feet tall, with 4 muscular arms ending in claws that could have served as industrial cutting tools. Its hide looked like it had been forged from the same metal as the arena floor, and when it roared, the sound reverberated through the dome with enough force to rattle Adnan's teeth. "The mighty Krelvox, 7-time champion of the hegemony death matches," announced the star-headed being. "Against the human Adnan?" The way the announcer said his name made it sound like a question, which pretty much summed up how everyone felt about this situation. Krelvox began his intimidation display, roaring and beating his chest with all 4 arms while gravitational waves rippled around his feet. The crowd went wild. Various aliens were taking bets, and from the sound of it, the odds were not in Adnan's favor. Adnan looked at the weapon rack that had been provided. Plasma rifles, molecular disruptors, something that looked like it could tear holes in space-time itself. He picked up what appeared to be the least dangerous option, a simple metal staff about his height. "Interesting choice," rumbled Krelvox in heavily accented standard. "I will make your death quick, soft creature." "Thanks, I appreciate that," Adnan replied, then immediately wondered if sarcasm translated properly. The starting horn, which sounded more like a stellar wind pattern than any instrument, rang out across the arena. Krelvox charged with the subtlety of a collapsing star. Adnan, operating purely on instinct and 18 months of cricket training from university, did the only thing that made sense. He swung his staff like a bat. The timing was perfect. Krelvox's momentum carried him directly into the arc of Adnan's swing, and the staff connected with what Adnan desperately hoped wasn't something vital. The impact sent vibrations up his arms, but more importantly, it sent the 12-foot alien warrior tumbling across the arena floor in a tangle of limbs. The crowd fell silent. Krelvox lay still for a moment, then began to laugh, a sound like grinding tectonic plates. "Magnificent. In all my cycles, I have never encountered such an unorthodox fighting style. You deliberately appeared weak to lull me into overconfidence, then struck with the precise force needed to exploit my forward momentum without causing permanent injury." "Truly the humans are tactical geniuses." Adnan blinked. What?" I concede the match, Krelvox announced, struggling to his feet. It would be an honor to serve under such a cunning warrior in the hegemony fleet. The arena erupted in cheers. Beings were throwing objects that might have been flowers or possibly small weapons. It was hard to tell. The three princesses were having what appeared to be an animated discussion that involved a lot of gesturing and color changing. Nihal appeared at his side somehow, having apparently teleported or possibly just moved very quickly through the crowd. Adnan, what did you just do? I honestly have no idea, he replied, still holding the staff. I think I accidentally invented a new fighting technique by playing cricket badly. The human's tactical partner speaks, announced the star-headed being. Lady Nihal, surely you can share the secrets of your champion's training methods? Nihal looked at the crowd, then at the three princesses who were now approaching with what looked like marriage contracts, then back at Adnan, who was still trying to figure out how he'd ended up as an accidental gladiator champion. Trade secret, she said with a perfectly straight face. As the three princesses began what appeared to be competitive negotiations for his romantic availability, Adnan reflected that being rescued by aliens had been considerably more complicated than the movies had suggested. At least he'd learned that human unpredictability was apparently considered an attractive trait across multiple species. Next time we go to Jupiter, he told Nihal quietly, let's check the fuel gauge first. Noted, she replied, though I have to admit this beats our previous research grant applications. The crowd was still cheering. The princesses were still negotiating. And somewhere in the distance, an alien announcer was declaring him the most promising human warrior diplomat in the known galaxy. Adnan decided that sometimes the best response to the impossible was simply to go with it. After all, how much stranger could things get?